What's up, guys? Welcome to the first ever episode 139 of the Kind of Funny Gamescast. As always, I'm Tim Gettys, joined by Jirard, the Completionist. Making his first ever appearance on the Kind of Funny Gamescast.
Hopefully not the last.
No, definitely not the last. I'm liking this, man. We spent all day together.
It's been
You're
fun.
a cool-ass dude.
Oh,
we got some Red Lobster for lunch. That was questionable.
The Cheddar Bay biscuits.
We got them biscuits, though.
Yeah.
So that was definitely important. And also, you were my co-host on Kind of Funny Games Daily. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
One of the coolest dudes in video games, Greg Miller, is actually out in New York doing some IGN WWE stuff. If you're watching this live, you'll be able to tomorrow watch Greg host that on twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames. So that's going to be a fun time. But instead, today, it's just going to be a little nice one-on-one here.
Yeah.
So let's get right into it. This is the Kind of Funny Gamescast. Each and every week, we talk about video games and all the things that we love about them. You can get it early by going to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, or you can get it late by going to youtube.com/kindoffunnygames. Either way, we really appreciate you. You can also get it in podcast forms on iTunes or SoundCloud or Beyond Pod or whatever. I don't even know. Andy, what do you use for podcast?
I don't actually.
What the fuck type of answer is that?
You don't use the podcast feed for your
No, I
subs?
don't. I
No Pocket Cast.
I use like Google Play. I use like Google Play Music
Google
for
Play.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess so.
Google Play,
That's
Yeah.
one.
I
iTunes
guess
sub
Use
feed,
Google Play.
Yeah.
All right.
RSS feeds.
Google Boy.
So, Gerard, for the people that don't know,
Yeah.
again, who are you? What do you do? And why should people like you? And why should they subscribe to youtube.com/thatonevideogamer?
It's such a tall order. Yeah. So hi, my name is Jirard Khalil. I've built a reputation on YouTube as the Completionist for my man versus game review show. Every week I complete a game. That's my shtick. I've been doing it for 6 years. I've completed over 230 plus games.
And by completed, you don't just mean beats.
No, I do everything. All the achievements, all the trophies, unlockable secrets, every mode. I no rock unturned. Everything is looked at and checked at. And I'm still amazed that I'm still here doing it. I didn't think I'd be here 6 years, because I started the show literally 6 years ago, like last Friday. So it's like
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so yeah, it happens every Friday. We air at noon. And yeah, it's one of the many things that I do. I have a Let's Play show. I have a boy band called Big Bad Bosses.
Slide that one in there.
Yeah, there's a bunch of weird stuff out there, but I think at the end of the day, I love creating, and that's kind of when someone says, "What do?" I kind of say I create things, and that's kind of always been my motto, is that I'm a creator. That's why people are like, "You're a games critic," and I go, That's one way of seeing it, but yeah. I view myself more as a creator.
You create content around games, and what I think is really cool about your show, The Completionist, is it is a very in-depth review, but it's not so much picking it apart. It's more of a breakdown of everything in the game.
Yeah.
Like it is like a strategy guide almost, but condensed to the fun parts.
Yeah, I view it as doing my homework and showing proof.
Yeah.
Like if I'm going to give a game a score or a review kind of tile, I get to say this is my view and opinion and validation because I went the extra mile and got all the achievements, or I beat the game 9 times in a row, or whatever it is. And I think that's what makes me different than everyone else.
How do you not go crazy?
I go crazy several times a week. I just don't let anyone show it. I try my best to be like the best Hulk that I can do and just kind of smash my way through things. And
my God.
Yeah.
Because Greg Miller, I've seen him break as a human being when a platinum's involved.
Yeah.
Like just going that extra mile, just go, the grind, and just being like, how is this even fun? But then there's not even a platinum trophy at the end of the stick sometimes for you.
Yep.
Like, you're just like Sonic Mania I saw you do when I watched your review, which was awesome.
Thank
Shout
you.
out to Matt, by the way.
Yeah.
My homie. And it blows my mind because like when you complete that game, you didn't just beat it. You didn't just 100% it. You 100%ed every save file.
Yeah, I did every possible run. Sonic single, Sonic and Tails, Knuckles, Tails, Knuckles and Knuckles mode, all the blue spheres, all the Chaos Emeralds in every game save. Like I went above and beyond. And I think for games like Sonic Mania, it's an absolute pleasure because I don't want the fun to go away.
Yeah.
Whereas it's games like Samus Returns where there's a lot less of that fun and passion because of the fact that it's a pretty meaty game that requires a lot of diligence and patience.
Research
Strategy
in terms
Yeah.
of like your path.
Yeah.
For specific things. Wow, that is crazy. You also have a patreon.com/.
That One Video Gamer. Yeah, we
so you can support him there as well.
recently relaunched. We have a show called Defend It, where it's based off of Phoenix Wright, and it's me debating someone who is a person in a soup named the Internet, and it's we a la Phoenix Wright in courtroom cases, anime style. We kind of go in depth and try and defend games that I think are actually more fun or don't deserve as much hate as they do.
Oh, I love
and,
that.
I get a lot of hate for that show because people get really heated about it, but that's the whole point of it. We recently did a video on Final Fantasy 13.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm
a lot of people don't like that game.
yeah, and I'm one of the few that do. I think that's the thing about games, and that's why I love your guys' stuff so much, is that it's so easy to be mean. It's so easy to be negative and critical, and I think it's so much more interesting and more fun to enjoy not only what we're doing, but enjoy games. It's one thing to say this game sucks, and I don't really like this aspect of the game. They're two different connotations.
Actual criticism.
Absolutely, and I think that's I don't consider myself a critic. I'm more of like a video game enthusiast. Yeah, I think that's really what it is, and I think that's important to know because we're in a lucky field where the content that we ingest not only is fun, but it's always evolving.
Mm-hmm.
1 year it's all about platformers, the next it's RPGs, the next it's a golf RPG.
Yeah.
There's so many interesting things happening all the time, and we're very lucky to kind of enjoy this kind of fun medium that we're in.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point with Final Fantasy 13 and just being like, Final Fantasy 13 sucks. Is like such a gut reaction people can say.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, even for me, there's things about the game that I do like, and there's things I don't like. And it's so much more constructive to break down and be like, well, I like the battle system, but I didn't like the whiny characters or the voice acting or the how linear it was or whatever. But I did like blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that's so much more valuable than just Final Fantasy 13 sucks.
Yeah, or you watched someone's YouTube video on it and you were like, that's my opinion now because I identify with that opinion, as opposed to, well, that's a good opinion to have, but I think X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big component of the echo chamber of the internet is I'm always stoked to talk to people about their opinions on games as long as it's their actual opinion and not just something they read off of Reddit or a top 10 list from GameSpot or IGN. As long as your actual opinion,
this is what you believe in,
then let's talk it out.
I love the list, and I love having the opinions on other people's opinions, even, right? It's like, I love looking at lists because it's like IGN infamously, in my heart at least, put up a list of their top 10 or ranking the mainline Final Fantasy games.
Yeah.
And it's like, look at it, Final Fantasy 12 is number 1. And I'm like, no, how? No. But it's just like, that's cool. Like, it's cool that there is a group of people that are very respected that have an opinion and they put their opinion out there and they're standing by it. And I can feel however I want to about that opinion, but
it's hard not to rage sometimes and seeing those things, but you have to remember at the end of the day, that's a conversation piece. And that's what it's about. It's about the conversation. And I think that's just so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I want to give a shout out to all of the Patreon supporters out there watching us live, but I also want to give a shout out to Tom Bach, our Patreon producer for this lovely month of October.
Woo!
And I want to give a shout out to all of the other Patreon supporters at the, I want to say, $20 or above level. Your names will be flowing through here. Yeah?
I just wanted to give you a thumbs up. I thought that was great.
Yeah, thanks,
While you're
Nick.
doing that, I'm going to give him a hug because I got to go.
You're
Oh,
leaving?
dude, it's so good seeing you.
Sorry to interrupt the podcast.
Yeah, man.
Cheers.
Yeah, take it
Safe
easy.
travels back. Enjoy your day tomorrow.
Thank you.
So as Nick leaves, a funny little side note here. You actually are good friends and know Matt Scarpino.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, crazy world of the internet. So Nick's brother Matt is married to my high school drama teacher, Carrie Hayter. She trained me for 10 years. 10 years of my life in theatrical writing, directing, acting, producing. She was the reason why I got into making YouTube. She was like the heart and soul of who I am. She really, at a young age, she embraced me and gave me the raw talent and drive and desire I wanted out of my life. And, I don't say it enough to her, but she means so much to me, and she's this guiding light force. And Matt was always with her, and the two of them really kind of nurtured me and protected me throughout my young adult years. And so
There's nothing scarier than Matt Scarpino and young adults.
well, of things to do and not to do, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so it was funny when you guys announced Kind of Funny. I didn't realize that Nick and Matt were brothers. I had no idea, and it wasn't until my Facebook feed I saw Matt share the video, and I had this moment of, oh man, like what a small ass world. I had no idea.
That's so crazy because like we first met you at SGC
2015,
years ago.
I think.
Yeah,
2015.
It was our first convention that we had done as Kind of Funny.
Yeah.
And it was just so crazy because I remember like I knew who you were, and I remember you came up to Nick and started talking and like, oh yeah, I know Matt. And I was like, what the fuck is happening right now? Because Nick is the most oblivious person. Like Nick doesn't know anyone on YouTube. He doesn't know anything. He's Nick Scarpino. What does he know? He knows 3 things. He's the keeper of 3 things. I don't remember what they are, but the Departed, like whether or not The Departed's a good movie. Is The Departed a good movie?
I think so.
Absolutely is. Nick's an idiot.
Does he not like it?
No, he hates it.
Oh man,
he hates it.
I'm glad we didn't talk about that on lunch, or else I would not be here.
But anyways, yeah, it's such a small world. But it's funny because when I was giving you the tour of the studio, you look and you're like, "This is Matt Scarpino's work."
Oh,
I'm
absolutely.
like, yeah, it is.
This is all Matt Scarpino.
God, that is so damn funny. All right, I want to talk about what games we have been playing recently. Andy, I want to bring you on real quick to tell us a little bit about this Golf Story. Have you been playing Golf Story at all?
I just downloaded it. Woo. I haven't had the time.
So we talked about it a bit last week, but I did play a little bit more after Kevin's wedding. That was like the main. As soon as we left the wedding, I was like, I want to go home. I was staying at my girlfriend's place. I was like, I want to play Golf Story. She's out of town. She's on vacation. I want to play this.
Live it up, bro.
Dude, we're fucking living it up, dude.
No girls, no rules.
It's the freaking weekend, baby. I'm about to have me some fun. Yeah, so we just popped in that Golf Story, played for like fucking 5 hours. But I'd also played like 5 hours before the wedding. I will say that I've gotten to a point where the story gets really kooky and weird, and I'm loving it. But the dialogue is still so on point. Like, it's so funny, and it hasn't lost any of the charm that it had for me, like, when I started playing the game. And I was like, we'll see how long this can last. And I'd say I'm about maybe 12 hours in, maybe something like that. And I'm loving it so far. Haven't played it since that night, though, since that day. And then last night I started up Hob. And Hob was announced in 2015, and it just got released last week.
What systems is on?
It's on PS4 and Steam, I believe. I don't think it's on Xbox, but
I want to say I saw it at PAX East.
it might be on Xbox. Yeah. But it is a game by Runic Games. They're the ones who made Torchlight. And so it is essentially a top-down, very similar to A Link to the Past, where you... except it's a little bit more skill-based in terms of like defeating enemies and dodging them and dodge rolling away from people.
Souls-like.
Souls-like game. Now there's no dialogue so far, which is really cool. And in that vein, it reminds me a lot of Hyper Light Drifter, where you're just how Hyper Light Drifter communicated in only photos or like drawings and shit like that. This is essentially just. It reminds me of how good animation is made, where there's no dialogue, but it's the mark of a good animation where you can still get across like what's happening, and that's what I'm getting a lot of. I'm getting a lot of like sort of Pixar-esque vibes when they release those shorts that don't have dialogue, but you still get that emotion out of it. Yeah. Oh man, that was really good. He was the guy. He looked like the guy from The Office, right?
He did.
Yeah, he looked like Jim. But it's really cool so far. I didn't play it much. I was just like basically playing it because I was waiting for a render to go through last night. And I can't wait to dig into it. Probably more tonight.
You played it on PS4?
PS4, yeah. I'm playing on PS4. And I've also been playing. I've still been playing 2K18. The story mode's still silly and not great. And holy shit, during every cutscene, my PS4 Pro sounds like a goddamn jet engine. And I don't know why.
You would have thought the Pro that they would have figured out how to control a jet.
Something's up, because this, I mean, we're not watching a Final Fantasy movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like this crazy intense cutscene. Yeah, this isn't Spirits Within with all the awesome like cloth. Remember the?
Oh yeah.
Like, dude, that cloth looks so real. I don't know why it's so loud and why it's performing so badly, but it is, and it's kind of worrisome because it's just a fucking cutscene. Like, hopefully they fix that bug or whatever. One thing I did notice, not really game related, but PS4 related, custom lists. We get, you know, with all the, of course, as soon as I got hired here, I got a lot of friend requests from the best friends, and that's awesome. But I can't find my friends that I know in real life that I never get to see that I want to play games with.
Yeah,
and because that's like my only form of communication with them now. And now you can set up custom lists with your best friends where it's not a group. You know, groups were this weird thing where everybody was opted in. So like I could add you to a group and friends from back home, but you guys don't know each other, so you don't want to be in this fucking group.
You can only interact in the group. Yeah, it's very nucleus based.
I just wanted, like Steam has your best friends list, or like Xbox has your real friends list or whatever. And I'm so glad that we have that now because I can sort of sort all my Rooster Teeth friends and all my friends from back home in Texas and stuff like that. So I'm really jazzed about that.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So games are cool, man.
Games are cool, man. Thanks, Andy.
Yeah.
Thanks. Jirard, what have you been playing?
Oh man, what have I been playing? Well, let's see. Hat in Time that comes out tomorrow, I believe.
So Hat in Time is the Mario 64 like game.
It's more like Mario Sunshine, if anything.
Really?
but-
And why is that? Because Greg has pitched this game to me. Greg saw this at Judges Week before E3, and he was like, Tim, like, you got to get on this. It's like, and he said it's like Mario 64.
It's a lot like Mario. It's a Mario platformer by an indie company who has been working on this game for a very, very, very long time. I know a lot of the artists that worked on the game. They've done contract work for me or some animation for my music videos. A lot of these artists who work on these videos or on this game are super proud of their work, and it shows. It is beautiful. It's essentially a beautiful 3D action platformer. You know, collectibles and missions and quests and characters, and it's a lot of fun. It really has this cell shaded kind of Wind Waker effect for it, and it's not quite cell. I don't know if it is cell shading or not, but it's got that same kind of style, and it's great. I think everyone was kind of iffy on ukulele. I think this is kind of leaning towards this is what we wanted from the beginning.
Interesting. So why would you say it's more Sunshine than 64?
Mostly because of the environments. Just like the hub worlds in the open world area, it feels very much like Wind Waker / Sunshine, where it's like, boats and docks and oceans and, bayside areas more or less. Whereas with 64, it's like your hub world's a castle and you jump into painting, it's a different thing altogether.
World,
yeah. And so these ones are more kind of, there is a lot of those worlds where it's like, crazy ventures, but at least the beginning stages and kind of your atmosphere going into it feel very reminiscent of Mario Sunshine more or less than 64.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so right now, I think it's available on everything except for Switch.
I think, yes. Well, I think on launch, it's only available on Steam, but it's coming to Xbox One, PS4 by the end of this year.
Interesting.
So by the end of the holiday, either the end of the holiday or early 2018, we should be seeing it on PS4 and Xbox One.
See, my thing is, I love it, and more platformers always a good thing to me, but we got Odyssey in a couple weeks. It's like, I don't know that I need another 3D platformer right now.
You and I talked about this for like a hot minute, but I'm with you in that 2017 may be the best year in games we've had in quite a while. I was sitting there trying to come up with my top 10 games of 2017, and just like from a what's out right now perspective, and there's so many games, whether they're good or bad or in between, like there's just been a lot of content. You've got, started the year strong with Resident Evil 7. And
I mean, that's the thing is I forget that's this year.
Right. And like the beginning of January, that game came out.
Trying to think of my top 10. It's like, is Resident Evil 7 in there? Because I can't, in the beginning of the year, if you would have asked me, I'd be like, absolutely. There's no way by the end of this year it won't be. And like now it's like, that's near the bottom of the list.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's such a great game. And I find myself thinking about Resident Evil 7, where I'm like, wow, they really did it. They did a first-person Resident Evil. Like they said, fuck it.
They brought it back to horror, and it worked. And it worked really well. And it wasn't like, it didn't require a lot of backstory. It didn't require a lot of investment.
Yeah.
Brand new story, brand new atmosphere, same type of horror. And it had elements from the other games where it wasn't intrusive. And I think you really kind of feel for the villains. You're like you're with them or you're against them or you're it's like it's this weird dynamic thing. They did a great job with it. That was like the first game of the year. And then the Switch came out, and then we got Breath of the Wild, and
before then, Horizon
came out right before that, and Spectre Knight, from Shovel Knight, like
so good.
it's just they crushed it, and they're still crushing it across the board this year. Almost indie AAA doesn't matter,
exclusive third party.
It's been crazy. It's been crazy. And we still have Odyssey. Odyssey's right around the corner.
We still have Odyssey. We still have
Battlefront.
South Park.
Shadow of War comes out, I think, this week.
So much coming, man. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts.
There's a lot of content out there. I think it's a great year to play games.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It really damn is.
Games are cool, man.
Games are cool, man.
Games are cool.
Games are
Put
cool.
it on the box. What else have you been playing?
Oh man, Cuphead.
Let's talk about
Cuphead. It is tough. It is scary, but it is so good.
It is so good. I feel like I might be praising the game too much, like in people's opinions. Like they're gonna be like, Tim, like
shut up, Tim.
Man, Cuphead to me is perfect. Like Cuphead is, I have criticisms, and it's perfect in the sense of as perfect can be.
I never really say perfect as in like it's 100% the best. It's just,
You just
like,
know how the comments are gonna.
Yeah,
reply.
it's like no, perfect is like I'm enjoying every aspect of it despite its flaws. It's a great game.
Oh my god, man! I was so hyped for this game when I first heard about it, as was everybody, because it looks amazing and it's such a fresh take on a platformer. Like these days, retro is modern. Like retro is something that we get so often that it's not even a novel idea anymore.
Yeah.
So to get something like this, and it's like, wow, like this is just, it's breathtaking to think about the level of detail that it's not just the hand-drawn art, it's the backgrounds, it's the way that the things animate, it's the music, it's the film grain, it's all of that. The aesthetics are beautiful. But then as it kept going on, I was just like, oh shit, it's gonna be really hard. I'm not that type of gamer. Like, I don't know that I really want to deal with all that. And it's like, oh, it's just bosses. Like, oh, I want platforming. Like, this game looks like it should be a platformer. And then when they added platforming, it got delayed, or like not delayed, but there was just no release date. And it just kept getting further and further out. And there was at more and more E3s. And I got to play the platforming levels. I was like, ooh, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. Like, this doesn't feel right. It's not fun. It's just, it looks good, but it's not fun. And to see it now and to be playing it, I love the platforming levels. I love the boss fights. It is hard, but it's challenging. It's not bullshit.
What's crazy is that the gameplay doesn't change that much throughout the game. If you take the time to learn and embrace what the game is teaching you, and you just sit there and you concentrate, you can get upgrades to change how some things behave and react, but at the core, the game does not change. The only thing that changes is that the bosses get harder, and they teach you to encounter those bosses.
The parry system, where in the beginning you're like, I'm not really gonna do this, but by the end of the game you're like, I'm fucking doing it. Like, because you realize that parrying boosts your super meter, and supers are super useful. And they can really fuck the bosses up. And when you start finding or unlocking the different weapons and understanding what bosses what weapons are best to use against specific bosses, and like the trial and error of losing 37 times to a boss, it never, to me so far,
I'm with you, doesn't feel like
oh, this fucking sucks. It's like, I'm fucking up, I'll get him next time, I'll get him next time. And then it's like you back out to the map, and then you're like, I'm gonna change out my loadout, and maybe this other weapon's gonna be better for this.
It's got that Super Meat Boy quality of, this isn't the game's fault for its design, it's my fault. I'm the reason why I got hit by this little pellet that I didn't see because I was paying attention to these
the rest
sheep
of the screen
attacking me head on. Like, I'm responsible for every move made or not made, and I think that to me is a sign of good game design. Is where it's almost like you, the gamer, are saying, "Oh, I'm sorry." Like every time you die, you're like, "Oh, it's my fault. I'm sorry." Like you're accepting responsibility for your faults, and it's because you're learning and you're growing with the game. Pretty soon, to the point where you're like, "Yo, let's do this 100% run. Let's not get hit. Let's get. Let's keep parry up to 6 times and use the super moves." And you start to get into the rhythm and flow of it, not because like it's required, but because you want to.
And I think that's something very special about the game, because it's so visually interesting. You want to play it right to make it look like a cartoon. Like I was playing, and my girlfriend was watching me, and it's one of those games where she was like, I just like looking at this.
Yeah.
You know, like I want you to keep going. I want to see what's next because it's so inventive. And the most kudos I can give the team over at Studio MDHR is every little detail they just nailed. Like the moment you boot the game up and there's the title screen and there's that vocal song that is in the right style, the barbershop quartet style of the 1930s that you would see in those cartoons. I'm like, oh wow, like this song is about the game. And then later when you meet the Dice Man, the
Hey,
Dice,
Mr. King Die. Yeah, it's
like,
so good.
Oh my God. It's like they're like,
You
wow.
sit there and you're
did
like
it.
listening. Yeah.
You go to the merchant and it's that pig and there's just that vocal sample of the welcome. And it's just like, wow, every little thing. The moment you're like, all right, I'm through the looking glass on this and I understand. It looks great and sounds great. I'm over it. There's some new cool thing. Like there's a boss fight against the genie. Did you play that one yet?
Yes. That's the fight I'm currently on.
And you do that, and all of a sudden it looks totally different than the rest of the levels have because the background is using an old animation technique where it's spinning, like, and it looks like it's moving, but everything else in front of it isn't.
Yeah.
And I'm like, good Lord, like this reminds me of the old Disney cartoons that used to do this type of technique. And it gives me a sense of wonder of like, how the fuck are they doing this that I haven't had since like the Super Nintendo and like seeing F-Zero for the first time or seeing like Yoshi's Island of how all the backgrounds and layers will interact with each other.
What's crazy is that for this game and all of its ambitiousness, it's constantly, it's never discouraging. It's never like, you know, well, this is just too hard to like get good at it. It's always with patience, with time, you get better. And I think that no one knew that's the kind of game they wanted because I've already seen, you know, the hit pieces from outlets being like, this game too hard? Can the looks and aesthetics alone save this game? It's like, well, first off, the game's doing well, so it's not in trouble.
Yeah.
Second, people didn't know they wanted a game like Cuphead, and now they love it. People didn't know that a old school cartoon as a bullet hell platformer would work, and now it's a thing that exists, and now it's a thing people want. And I think we're seeing this kind of trend in the gaming industry where being weird but doing it really well is totally okay.
Absolutely.
Go shoot for the stars.
And I love that there's something inherent about the art style of 1930s cartoons that wacky and weird just fits right in.
There's so much like evil imagery in this cartoon, and you're never once like unsettled
like,
by it or
exactly.
it's
Like,
bizarre.
oh, this feels right, and the way the boss is like every boss has like 3 or 4 transformations where it'll just change, but because it's this style, like it's Looney Tunes, they can morph and change, and a cat or a mouse can like use a tin can as a tank and then get eaten by a cat, but then the cat's head opens up and you see that the mouse is using the cat as a mech.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the hell? But it's like, I feel like the game being so challenging and every boss fight, when you do it right, is only 2 or 3 minutes.
Oh yeah. The golden standard for getting the grading for the best time is 2 minutes on almost every boss.
And like, to me, that is a great trial and error time where it's not too frustrating. If you fuck up, you're not wasting hours going back and forth. But in addition to that, I feel like it's challenging. And every time you get to the next section or transformation of the boss, you feel like you earned it. And then you get to see something cool. And you're always asking what's next.
And when you die and you see the indicator of Cuphead and Mugman, I really think you should call him Mug Face, as in like a mug face, you know, mugging them down. I thought it was so close to being that much.
Close.
Yeah, they already had it with everything else, but seeing the icons on screen tracking your progress, it just kind of goes to show, oh, I almost did it, or I barely touched that flag, and it's really reassuring that there were so many moments where I got to the end and I'm like
a sliver away from that flag.
It's like on the flag. It's at the end. It's like, oh, if I survived just a few seconds longer, I would have had it.
And it's the ultimate thing of like, oh, one more, I got it.
One more.
You know?
2 minutes, I got this.
I got this.
Yeah, and
so
that's the beauty of it. It's the consumption of time, right? 2 minutes for every boss. No boss should take more than 2 minutes. And so you're like, okay, that's a challenge I can do, or I'm going to try and do it.
4 hours later.
4 hours later, you're like, oh man, I didn't even get close to the end, but I feel freaking good that I learned and I grew and learned more about how to do it. And it's so smart. It's so smart without beating you over the head.
And I love that there's I think once you hit World 2, there's like a little pool of water you can go over to and talk to it, and it will tell you how many times you've died.
Yeah.
Total. And I'm like, oh, I love that. I love that the game is aware of what it is. It understands that you're going to die. That's part of the gameplay design. It's part of the loop.
Yeah.
Oh, man. It's just great. And I really enjoy, probably more than anything, that the game is designed in a way where it understands what's fun about video games.
Yeah.
The challenge of the platforming levels is the obstacles. The challenge of the boss fights is learning the patterns. I talked about this on Games Daily with Greg a couple days ago. Back in the day with Contra, back in the day with Metal Slug or Mega Man, you got to get through the whole level and then fight the boss. And if you lose at the boss
All the way
three
to the
times
beginning.
and you lose your 3 lives, all the way back to the beginning, do that level again, as hard as it is. Do the boss and all this stuff. And I'm like, there's a time and place for those games. We're not there anymore. Like that was a padding to have people play a game longer because they only had one game for a year at a time or whatever it was. With Cuphead, they're like, no, this is the greatest hits album of what we're trying to do. There's no filler in this game. There's absolutely no filler in Cuphead. And I haven't beat it yet. I am at the end of World 3. So I have, I think, 3 bosses left.
I think the filler, if you will, is going the full completionist route, is getting, and to me, that doesn't seem like, it doesn't, I think that's the gratifying thing, right? It's one thing when you're playing a Sonic game and it's like, you got a B or an A or a C, you could do better. But this game is like, hey there, young whippersnapper, you got an A+, look at you, you get a gold star. Like that kind of satisfaction is so interesting to the point where it makes you want to sit down with a friend and go, okay, you need to get good as me. Let's play together and get good at the game. And I think that kind of like camaraderie doesn't happen in games very often, especially local games where you're like, we have to get good together as a group.
Gotta
get good.
Yeah. Oh man. Any other games you've been playing?
Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite.
Really? So what are your thoughts?
It's a very love-hate thing. I think that in terms of accessibility, it's the easiest to digest and play Marvel game so far. I think that it looked at the formula of the fighting game and said, how do we make it simple for casuals, but more in depth and entertaining for the hardcore fans that have known and loved and grown with the franchise. But I think that for me, it's never been about characters or graphics, but I think this time around it has become about characters and graphics. The character list is fine, I think they have a solid list on both ends, but it just doesn't seem like they put enough in. It doesn't seem like enough characters. It doesn't seem like enough of a thoughtful choice was decided for these characters. And then you add that the models just kind of not looking very solid, and it kind of just puts this weird,
smudge on your experience.
Yeah, and I mean, I was one of those people out there that bought the collector's edition that got the eggs, and it really, I don't know if you've seen them, but
no,
the collector's editions of Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, they're supposed to come with 4 statues, one of Mega Man, Iron Man, Chun-Li, and Captain Marvel. Though, and along with that is you get DLC season pass stuff for the whole game, as well as exclusive costumes. And I think you also get, you get the Infinity Stones. And the Infinity Stones are based on the photos and based on what we've seen presentation-wise from Capcom, they advertised it as if you were getting something a little more texturized, like the Chaos Emeralds, where they were more like rubies or gems or, that kind of stuff. What everyone got was a box that had Easter eggs glued into it. And the Easter eggs light up, and you can't take the Easter eggs out, and that's what we got. And it's I don't think I've seen one that isn't that. Like they're all like that. And this thing was $200. Capcom did not send me this. I pre-ordered it. I wanted to make sure I got it, and I finally got it. It was the first collector's edition that I've bought in years where I was very confused and upset as to what I got inside the box.
That sucks, man.
It's $200.
Does that turn you off to buying collector's editions in the future?
I mean, I don't know, because I'm that guy that buys collectors every time, depending on the game and if I love it. But I was so blown away at how bad it was. And I don't know if it's me being upset because I spent $200 or me being upset for the company because this was supposed to be promised as a cool exclusive experience, and I just got Easter eggs.
You got some eggs.
And I wish that I was wrong. I wish that like I can send mine back and get better ones. My Chun-Li model has red eyes. Chun-Li looks high. She looks so high. Her eyes are red on the outside and on the inside. She looks baked out of her mind, and I'm just blown away. I'm blown away that they dropped the ball that hard. And that's kind of how I feel about the game too. I'm lukewarm. I like the gameplay. I love the fighting. I even like the story. It's just the graphics and the characters. I honestly think that if they can get the X-Men involved somehow, and they release patch updates for character models, this could be the game that eventually get around to it. But kind of like Street Fighter V, it's a little brim and bare right now.
Yeah, it's too little too late at the same time.
Exactly.
Like, you can't drop the ball that many times. I feel like Capcom really has been doing that. Like, it's great that they are focusing on the hardcore and the fighting game community, and they're giving them what they want, but it's like, these are also the type of games that need to not just be accessible to the mainstream and to casuals, but to be good and to be impressive.
And that's the thing, is that from a visual standpoint, with the background work and like the moves that are happening, you're kind of like, wow, this looks pretty cool and pretty great. But then you get to some stages where you go, that looks like it came out on PS3 or 360, or Frank West's model looks like, when you choose your character and it says, Frank West, and it's like, I'm on the case, his box art for who he is as his character select looks like Frank West from Dead Rising. His actual like figure that's there on the character select screen does not look like Frank. It looks like knockoff Frank. And I'm just,
all I'm seeing is the Spider-Man without a neck.
Yeah.
And like Captain America. It's like, who the fuck designed these? Like, why?
It's very interesting. And I keep seeing, they recently just announced the costumes for Monster Hunter and for Black Panther, and those models and costumes look 10 times better than anything else in the game so far. And so it's kind of been a meme on my Twitter feed that like, that's where all the money went. The money went into the DLC and into the world expansion portion of the game, because Monster Hunter looks awesome. Black Panther looks awesome. You can tell they put a lot of time and care into those characters. But then you look at Frank West or Morgan or I'm trying to think of who else. That Chun-Li looks okay. Dante.
She looked horrible.
She looked horrible. Yeah. Dante, they kind of half fixed. So I that's the thing. I love the game. I love the community. I'm a huge fighting game fan. I'm at Evo in the front row. If you're ever watching Disney XD and you're like, who's that homeless guy in the front row screaming? That's me in every shot. Like, I love the FGC and Evo and the fighting game community, and it bums me out that Marvel,
this is what they get.
Yeah, because I feel like it's not disrespectful to the casuals, it's disrespectful to the hardcore. And I hope that Capcom is kind of weighing their options. I definitely don't. I mean, we're probably going to get Ultimate Marvel versus Capcom Infinite, We're probably going to get Super Marvel versus Capcom Infinite or Ultra Street Fighter 5. And if we do, I hope those changes equate to what make the community happy. But again, you said it best. Might be too little too late.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. What about you? What have you been playing? I've been talking this whole time. Just Cuphead?
Yeah, man, that's pretty much been it. I've been wanting to get into Golf Story, but I got a code too late. Then we had my friend Kevin's wedding, and we were doing a whole bunch of stuff. And then Cuphead is, again, I'm not good at games. So Cuphead's taken me some time.
Yeah.
But I'm going to beat this shit.
Yeah,
and
man.
I feel good about it. Like it'll be a badge of honor for me.
Yeah.
To be like, I did it. I was there. Let's do a segment I like to call This Week in Gaming History. 7 years ago, on October 5th, 2010, Enslaved: Odyssey to the West came out on PS3 and 360. You play this?
I have not. I own it, though.
One of the most underrated games of last generation.
Who made it?
Team Ninja.
Team Ninja, okay.
Yeah. And it is fantastic. It's just one of those under-the-radar games that don't exist anymore now. It's kind of that, middle tier... it comes out and like you hear about it, but it's like no one really played it or talked about it. And then once people start playing it, they're like, no, you gotta play it. It reminds me of Spec Ops, the line a lot, where the people that play it are like swear by it. They're like, you gotta do this, or Vanquish.
Yes, I love
like
Vanquish.
That.
Vanquish is so fun,
so damn good.
Yeah,
but yeah, Enslaved, if you can get your hands on it, I definitely recommend it. 13 years ago, on October 4th, 2004, Tony Hawk's Underground 2 came out on PlayStation 2. Probably the last Tony Hawk game that I really enjoyed.
And the last one I played was Tony Hawk 3.
Oh, really?
For PS2.
I love Tony Hawk games, so
They're so good. Yeah.
Wrote it out, no pun intended. Pretty far. Like the last one that I fully played and 100%ed and was into was American Wasteland, which is the one right after this. And that one, I was like, you're starting to lose me. And then they went a totally different route with the sequels with Project 8 and then Proving Ground. And then they hit Ride and stuff like that. And those were just a total disaster.
What a...
But Doug 2 was the one with the Jackass stuff and Bam Margera, and they just went full into that kind of style. But it also brought back classic mode so that it was the classic 2-minute, get as many tapes as you can. And
score,
and
time attack,
get skate and all that stuff. And oh my God, I loved it so much. 14 years ago, on October 7, 2003, Beautiful Joe came out on GameCube.
Yo, Beautiful Joe. Talk about underrated games. Beautiful Joe is incredible.
Yeah.
So much fun.
Do you think we'll ever get a sequel? Or another sequel?
I don't know. I'd like it. I don't know. I feel like Beautiful Joe has had a lot of little one-off, spin-off actions here and there, aside from the GameCube titles. And it makes me have hope and faith. But I don't know. I think it just depends on if and when. Like, do they make it now? Do they make it 10 years from now?
I mean, Capcom is just in such an interesting place when you look at them. Like, they've always been a consistent force in the gaming industry, and they've always put out quality titles. And not every title they put out is quality, but like they always have a couple franchises that are doing well. And I feel like right now is a rare time where, they had Resident Evil 7, but then they do things like this Marvel vs. Capcom situation. They do things like Street Fighter 5, and it's like, where's the Capcom that I remembered? Like, where's the Capcom that would come with the heat at all times? You know, it's looking at their Switch offering so far. It's like, whoa, like this is very tepid.
Yeah,
for a company that usually would just go all in and see great results from it.
Let me ask you this: do you think? And this is something I always toy with when I talk to people about like the games industry, right? Do you think if Capcom started selling properties to other companies, they sell an IP to someone else, do you think if Capcom went to Nintendo and said, here's Mega Man, it's yours, all of Mega Man, have fun, do you think like that's a good thing, a bad thing, creative, or like maybe not necessarily giving them the reins, but going to, let's say, an indie dev company that has that same familiarity? Like, imagine if Capcom went to Yacht Club Games and was like, hey, you guys made Shovel Knight.
Fix it.
Here's Mega Man, fix it.
Yeah.
Or, they have their own version of Sonic Mania where the fans made something like it and they go, boom, here you go, make this.
Yeah.
Good luck.
I mean, it's interesting, and I think we've seen that happen to an extent a couple times, especially
even with Capcom.
but with Nintendo going to Capcom and then making Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons on the Game Boy, and those games are amazing.
They are.
But I can't imagine those type of like big IPs ever really just being dumped like that, right? Like, because obviously they spent.
I got distracted.
The gas cheat. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. A topic that we're gonna do on Gamescast, not today, but at some point, that someone sent in was, what about the idea of game developers doing the equivalence of the way people do covers of songs, but covers of games.
Interesting.
Where it's like, where it would be a, Capcom style whatever game, and then just go back and like see what Metal Gear Solid would look like made by, I don't know,
whoever
else. Yeah. But anyway, tweet at me and let me know if you have any suggestions of ideas that you think would be cool about that. 17 years ago, on October 4th, 2000. Oh man, I didn't put the date there. It must be just 2000. Street Fighter 3 Third Strike came out.
Oh, man.
You have a lot of fond memories of that one?
Oh, yeah. I just bought a Third Strike arcade cabinet for my office.
Holy shit.
It's a lot of fun.
So you're in it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Street Fighter 3 was interesting because it'd been so long since Street Fighter 2, and we've had so many iterations of it, right?
Yeah.
So that by the time 3 came, it was different. It was like, here's a cast of characters. Like, you're not getting the same 8 plus 4 plus 4.
Not to mention the art style is way different, and the mechanics are way different.
I love the art style.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I miss games looking like that. It's just so great. But it was a bold choice for them to be like, hey, Ryu's there, Ken's there, Chun-Li's there. Dalsim's there. I think that was it.
I think so. And the rest is all new.
And then the rest was all new characters. And that's such an interesting choice for them to make with the franchise as iconic as Street Fighter.
Yeah.
And it didn't really pay off for them because, people were like, where's the characters we want? And eventually they kept iterating and all that. And then Street Fighter died. There was the fighting game community had it and they loved it. But then it wasn't until...
It's like a fighting game crash almost.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And there was a fighting game renaissance when Street Fighter 4 came out years later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny thinking about Street Fighter 4 when it first came out because it's like it felt like Street Fighter 2. It felt like we were playing Street Fighter 2 again for the first time, but there were supers and there were, and then eventually ultras. And it's like it felt very familiar even though it was 3D, 2D. And I don't know, man. I'm rooting for Capcom. I always am. I'm always rooting for every game company that makes a game. I want them to succeed because it just means more games because video games are fucking cool.
Video games are cool. That needs to be the tagline of the show. I love it. I'm just waiting for an Onimusha, though. Speaking of Capcom.
Oh,
can
man.
you bring that back, please?
Whew. I'd love another Okami.
See, my thing with Okami, and I feel the same way about Beautiful Joe. I don't know that we need more. I guess
like
that it was
let
what
the curtain
was.
stay where it
yeah,
is.
It's like, can they really do Okami better? I don't know. Like there was the DS sequel, right?
Yeah.
And it was all right. It was good.
Okay.
But man, Okami was a special moment in time, right? This next one, I actually don't have any real memories of it, but I imagine you do. 17 years ago on October 5th, 2000, Skies of Arcadia came out on Dreamcast.
Oh man, I recently just did a top 10 video on my Dreamcast games. I never played this game.
Oh, okay.
But I own it. It's definitely one of the most requested games I get for the show because it's a big game. But yeah, I know nothing about it. I just have it on GameCube and Dreamcast.
And Dreamcast. 19 years ago on October 1st, 1998, Medieval came out on PlayStation.
Yo, Medieval.
What a game. What a game that is like honestly not that good.
No.
But it's like you have fond memories of it because you're like, well, we're playing video games.
Yeah. What
Like,
a fascinating game.
that was such a demo game for me. Where
It was.
I had a demo disc with it on it and I would play that demo all the time just because I had it. But
Yeah.
it's just like, and the character design was cool. Like what was his name?
not Sir Drake. Oh my God, why can't I think of it? Sir Daniel. Sir Daniel?
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, all right, why not? The eye and everything,
Yeah.
like cool. But yeah.
Definitely unsettling if you're trying to pitch a game to kids because it felt very kind of kiddish, but not
Well,
really.
It was interesting because it's such a PlayStation game. PlayStation
Yes.
1. It's such a like mid to late 90s. We're cool and we're a little darker than
Polygons,
Nintendo. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
and it's like we had this character that's a skeleton, but it's still kind of goofy and for kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely going to be lost in time.
Yeah,
eventually.
absolutely.
I remember last gen, during the PS3 era, there was that leaked footage that came out of like what looked like a PS3 sequel, and then nothing ever really came from that.
I played 1 and 2. There was a PS2 game as well, wasn't there?
Oh, I don't think so.
Or am I just making that up? Maybe I'm just making it up.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it was one of those dormant franchises
Yeah.
that just went away. 20 years ago, on October 2nd, 1997, Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
What a legend.
Came out on
What a
PlayStation.
legend. That game is so good.
Yeah.
That's a game that I can pick up once a year and just
Fuck it, I'm going through
let's
it.
go. Yeah.
Yeah. Damn.
Tons of fun.
Did you ever do that for one of your games?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
Oh yeah.
100%
And that's
of that.
what I'm gonna have to redo, but I'm gonna have just as much
Great
fun
time
doing it.
doing
Yeah.
22 years ago, very near and dear to my heart, October 4th, 1995, Yoshi's Island came out on Super Nintendo. And again, I've said I'm a broken record. It might be my favorite game of all time. It's
pretty
that game.
freaking good.
Yeah,
It's
just so beautiful.
And
The
it's
boss
so
designs,
it's
the-
so different. It's
Yeah.
not Mario World Dash 2. It's Yoshi's Island. It's
Yeah,
a very
man.
different game.
and people do not give it enough credit.
It does.
sucks.
Yo, if you have an SNES Classic, I think it's on there.
It
Isn't
is.
it? Yeah.
It is one of the few ways to play that game like faithfully because it has was it the Super FX chip? It had
Yes.
some chip in it that that emulators just have a hard time processing correctly.
Yeah.
And from everything I played a little bit on the SNES Classic, I'm like, holy shit! Like I haven't seen the game look like this in so long. Like the last time I've been playing was on the GBA version, which I also loved, but it had some issues.
Yeah.
Wow, I love it when this works out. Perfect timing here. 28 years ago on October 3rd, 1989, Prince of Persia came out on Apple II. And one of the first video games I ever played.
No way.
At Kevin's house, where his mom bought a computer at a garage sale, and we like booted it up, and then we saw there was games on it, and Prince of Persia was one of them. And there was just something that might have been the video game that instilled my love for games and understanding the creativity they have and the level design and stuff, where I filled in the gaps of what wasn't being shown. Like Prince of Persia is the original one, very grid based, where it's like you hit right and he takes one step, and you have to time the jumps, and it's very like it kind of reminds me
very rough around the edges,
very rough, and in a modern day thing, it's kind of like a flash game on the internet where it's like you're just kind of like hitting right on the keyboard and hoping things work out. But then you'd fall, and it's like some pits you can go down, some you couldn't. Then you have to fight. You get the sword. You have to fight the soul, and there's all these skeleton like just skulls around, and I could feel the world. I was like, this. I'm filling in the gaps to understand this universe that they're creating for me, and it felt like when you watch movies and you're just transported somewhere else.
You're in the world that's created.
Playing Prince of Persia did for me, for video games, what Star Wars did for me for movies.
I wish we could say the same about the movie.
Oh my god,
the movie was rough. It was a rough one.
It was a rough one.
It was rough.
God.
Sorry, I'm getting a little tangential. Why do you think that we can't get
a good video game movie?
It just. To me, the best one we got is Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and that's not even
that is the best one.
Yeah,
because it's about video games, and it's about the love of video games, not about a video game. I don't know, man. Video game movies are interesting to me because there's so much they have to get right, and it's like once you take the video game aspects out of the video game, it's not as good. Normally. Yeah, it takes away what makes it special. And not that I'm saying this is a good movie, because it is not a good movie.
Yeah,
but I think it is a good video game movie where I'm like, oh, they nailed what they were going for. Dead or Alive.
I never saw it.
Dead or Alive did something interesting where they just took these over the top fucking characters and were like, guess what? They're gonna be over the top. They can jump and kind of float in the air and do all this like shit that's like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon that like people can't really do, and it doesn't translate well from video game to movie. However, they essentially treated it like pro wrestling.
Yeah,
and they're like, let's just commit to the over the top characters and all that. But the one thing they did that I've never seen other video game movie adaptations do is there was like, you know what? There's a fighting tournament. You guys are gonna fight against each other. They implanted some bullshit in their head that made health bars. So when you'd see them fight, that you'd see the health bars. And so it's like they put the health bars in the game or in the movie. And it was just like, this is a video game movie.
Yeah.
Like you made it work.
Yeah. Interesting. And, that's fascinating too, because I think the director of those movies is the guy who directed and produced the Mortal Kombat films and went on to go do Resident Evil.
What was his name?
Paul Anderson?
Did he direct Dead or Alive?
I think he did.
Oh my god,
I could be wrong.
That is really, really weird.
People in the chat might be yelling at me, but I'm pretty sure he did.
Interesting.
I did a video on RE4 last week, and I remember researching and finding that out that he did Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 and Dead or Alive, and then
the Resident Evils,
and then Resident Evil, yeah.
And then finally, 29 years ago on October 1st, 1988, Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels came out on Famicom. The true Super Mario Bros. 2.
The true Mario Bros. 2.
You ever beat that game?
I did.
I beat it on Mario All-Stars.
I did too.
And man, that game definitely rough around the edges, and it's like, whoa, they really just made a sequel to Mario Brothers.
Do you like Doki Doki Panic Mario 2?
Love it.
I do too.
I love it.
I think it's great. I don't know why. I don't think there is like a weird thing about it, but I definitely feel that people kind of are weird about
like it's not a real Mario.
Well, because they think that Mario 3 is the best, which inherently it is.
Great.
But I feel like Mario 2 wasn't trying to be Mario 1. It was trying to be something different.
Yeah.
Even though it was a different game altogether.
Yeah. But no, I love Mario 2. It's so damn good.
Yeah.
But I mean, I love the real Mario 2 as well. Like, I feel like Lost Levels was like, hey, fuck it. We're giving you Super Mario Brothers, but it's hard as hell.
Yeah.
Like, and then there was so much bullshit where they're like, we're going to outsmart you. You think you know how to outdo this game? You think that you can jump over the flag? We're going to punish you for it.
Yeah.
Because everyone always tries to jump over the flag. And in Lost Levels, you can.
Yeah.
And when you do, you can't go back. And it sends you, you're in World 6 and it sends you back to World 1. It's like, you motherfucker.
You found a secret. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
No, you didn't.
It was a very special game to me. Now, I'm going to do something very rude right now. I drank way too much LaCroix, so I need to go pee.
Sure.
So can you entertain people for
No
30
problem.
seconds?
You got it. Hey guys, what's going on? I'm by myself for a second. Yeah. What do you guys want to talk about? I don't know. Can I pull up the chat and talk to those guys for a little bit? Is that possible? Let's see. I'll take the time right now to talk to the chat. What's up, guys? What is going on? I am right now reading the chat. Let's see here. A good movie based on a game, Silent Hill. I'm trying to say, I don't know if I saw the Silent Hill. It's the Jirard Show. It's definitely not the Jirard Show. Oh man, what are some other video game movies that were really disappointing? Assassin's Creed was so close to being good.
Really?
It was so close to being good. It was the kind of movie that they focused on the aspect of, oh, I want to play, or the abstergo part of it, because Assassin's Creed's always been like you play a majority of the game in the past or in some form of history, and then in the later half of the game, or in the spotted aspects of it, you're in the current day when you're trapped at abstergo. The movie was the exact opposite, where like it almost took place in the current day, and then you don't even get to,
Really what I wanted.
no. The whole thing about Assassin's Creed is you get to play as this really cool assassin who has a really interesting backstory, and he's participating in this random, quest for a relic or an item, and then it's kind of a big reveal that, oh, it's actually not real. He's in a confined world. Whereas in this one, it's like from the very beginning, it's fake, and yeah, they treat it like a prison almost. It's like, oh, this guy's a prison from the very beginning right away. And so, man, I don't even remember the name of the assassin they focused on. That because each Assassin's Creed, right? Assassin's Creed 1, you're Altair. Assassin's Creed 2, you're Ezio. Assassin's Creed 3, you're oh man, I didn't play Assassin's Creed 3 yet. It was on my list. Black Flag, you play as Connor. Is it Connor? I think it's Connor. Connor, the pirate. And then you have all these cool things, and then
You have zero attachment to this character.
right, I don't care about the character I'm watching in the Assassin's Creed film.
Have you guys talked about the Warcraft movie?
We have not talked about the Warcraft movie. I saw the Warcraft movie, and here's the thing. I love going into movies not knowing anything about what I'm watching. So in the case of Warcraft, I dabbled in Warcraft, didn't really get into World of Warcraft. Went and saw the Warcraft movie, had no fucking idea what was going on from start to finish. I genuinely sat there and tried to ingest everything out of the Warcraft movie, and it was just too much. I couldn't understand it.
Yeah.
Did you hate the Warcraft movie?
Visually blown away. Fight scenes, action scenes, great. I could not tell you a single main character or purpose of the movie. I have no idea. I genuinely watched the whole thing not remembering anything but the cool scenes.
So I played World of Warcraft for like 5 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And I still don't really know the lore because you play online with your friends and you're talking during all the scenes, and like I didn't read the novels. I wasn't that type of person. But I thought the movie was fine. Like when it ended, I was like, not a terrible movie. And I was like pretty surprised by that. And I think a lot of it came from, I was shocked that some of the characters had American accents, because you think mythical sort of fantasy movies, you expect
Dwarf,
Lord of the
elven,
Rings,
orc.
everybody has an accent, and oh my, Game of Thrones, but like there was just some straight up American accents. I was like, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But it's like it's some of the races had different accents, which is I thought it was cool. Warcraft movie, Tim, not terrible.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like not good, but
I just, like I said, as someone who never played Warcraft, let alone World of Warcraft, I had the hardest time keeping up. and I was hoping that it had that like easy consumable side of it, but it definitely requires you to do a little not like explorative lore, but at least have some basic understanding as to what.
There's a barrier to entry.
There is definitely a barrier to entry. It's almost like Destiny, where you have to like kind of find the lore of the game off the game.
Well, I'm back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's all
that
good.
That was quite the experience. I had to pee so bad, and I go, and then Andy's in the bathroom. I'm like, oh no. Like I had that moment of panic where I'm like, do I pee off the roof? Like, what do I do?
Thank you for conversing with me.
All right. Now we're going to listener mail section. You can go to kindafunny.com/gamescast, just like so many people did, to ask some questions. These are all focused on you, my friend.
Oh, no.
Nabeson wants to know, now that you're doing re-reviews on your first 120 games on your channel, what games are you most excited / dreading to complete again?
Oh,
So some background
man.
real quick is you had 120 games that you have 100% completed that you've made videos for.
So
those had to get taken off your channel. So you now like, fuck it. I'm going back. You're going to replay the games again, 100% them, remake the whole new videos, modernize it. You're a crazy person.
Yeah, unfortunately, I had a pretty bad public falling out with my former friend Greg, and he wanted me to take the videos down, and our lawyers talked it through, and I wasn't getting a response from him. So I just said, you know what, I'm gonna take away the stress and the guilt and the anger that's kind of been pent up in me over this whole public debacle, and just remove them as he requested, and make it about giving back to the fans and giving a second shot, a second polish. Because in 6 years ago, so much has changed in gaming. I've changed a lot, and I didn't. I look forward in building my company and my brand and the show, and I really thought, I don't want to sit there and think about a game and get sick to my stomach because of a video I once made that now is no longer there. I want to really give it a second chance. And so I'm calling it the Completionist New Game Plus, and it's
fantastic. What great brand.
Yeah. And it's essentially I'm acting as if I'm reviewing the game for a second time, because if people search on YouTube, they'll find the first rendition of the video somewhere. And so it's kind of like hey, if you've never seen this game before, great, we're going to talk about it today. If you've seen my other video, so you know where I already stand. So let's take a more thorough look again. And so I'm doing all 120 games again, and the first one starting is the word started Mega Man X. I'm starting with that next Tuesday, actually. So I'll be debuting that next week. I'm very excited, very nervous. To answer your question, the games I'm dreading the most right now, Cave Story. Cave Story was a very rough game, very, very hard. Hyrule Warriors is also another one I'm scared of, because the DLC wasn't out back then, and now I have to redo all the DLC.
Oh, see, this is cool.
Yeah.
So there's like new added elements now.
Yeah. Catherine, which we talked about at lunch. Catherine and Metal Gear Solid are games that I love to death, but completing them almost killed me, because they're the time investment and the amount of energy that goes through making the show is very scary and large. And those games alone, I think I put in, I want to say like 100 plus hours in Metal Gear Solid and over 100 attempts to just beat it. And it's
So Metal Gear Solid, like the thing that's most challenging is
beating the game under 3 hours to achieve the big boss ranking status, but you can't have killed anyone. You can't be spotted. You have to just play through the game as if you are a ghost, and under 3 hours. I basically became a Metal Gear Solid speedrunner, and to have to do that again, that's probably the most terrifying one. That and Five Nights at Freddy's. Because admittedly, I did Five Nights at Freddy's because I don't really do YouTube trends in terms of like, well, let's see what everyone else is playing. But I took that chance with Five Nights at Freddy's because there was an undeniable presence of it on YouTube. And at the time, there was a lot of clout and weight to the difficulty of the game. And especially because Markiplier with 2020 mode. And so I said, yeah, I'll give it a shot. And that game legitimately gave me PTSD from playing games. I had to get a therapist and get like an EKG, because I have to, if playing 2020 mode is difficult because you have your headphones on, and if you mess up, you're dead. And dying is loud screaming, loud noises, and an image jump scaring you every time. And in order to get good, you have to have your patterns down, left door, right door, look, monitor. It's this kind of high octane thing. And I did FNAF 1, then FNAF 2 right away, and then FNAF 3 a few months later. And I just kept doing them, but I genuinely was like getting panic attacks from playing the games. And I didn't know if I was going through a lot of stress or my health, and it was a combination of those two things. But my therapist was like, yeah, this is from these games. They're giving you like this weird shock that's
Holy
kind of
shit.
tearing you up. And so that game is probably one I'm really
So
dreading.
let's do it again.
Right. And I will do it again. I'm not nervous about that, but I'm
So
not.
you're not shying away from any game. You're
No,
going back
every
on
game
single
is
one.
back on the table. All 120, even the ones that I hated. Sneak King.
Sneak King.
I love Dead Rising 1, but like doing those last few achievements are brutal. I'm also gonna be doing renditions of games that didn't exist before that I have no reference footage for. So I did Crash Bandicoot 1, 2, and 3 many years ago. The Crash Insane Trilogy is out now, which means now I have to do Crash 1, 2, and 3 Classic and Crash 1, 2, and 3.
You're gonna do why?
I'm gonna
why
do both.
Why not just the remaster?
Well, because the games essentially are the same, right? And I could do either or, but I definitely, from my perspective as someone who's analyzing these games, I want to see what's changed. And I think the only way to do that is to really look at both games at the same time and go, okay, magnifying glass aside, what is going on here? Because the physics are different in Crash Insane Trilogy versus the original. So what's changed there? And so I'm when it comes to that kind of stuff, I at first was going to pick either or, but I think thinking about that, I have to look at both. I think it's important.
Like, you know what? That relic on Road to Nowhere, I need to do it twice.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Good Lord.
I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to go
Yeah.
crazy.
Jordan BZ says, how hard was it to 100% Breath of the Wild in a pretty short space of time? Is it the toughest game you've had to complete for the show?
Breath of the Wild was not hard. I think there was an essence of like, it's going to be hard. Watch out, Jirard. It's going to be a big game. And I instantly got over that fear the minute that I started doing the shrines. When I got the 120th shrine, I was like, yo, that felt gratifying. I still have plenty of steam, and I'm still going.
Those Korok seeds.
I think the Korok where I went insane was the science behind Korok gathering. In my video, I remember distinctly talking about how I bought three versions of the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild strategy guide because each one came with a different map size and different map layout, and all of the maps had conflicting information that wasn't correct. And online, the game was too new to really see what website had it correct. And some of the Koroks, especially towards the end game in Ganon's castle, you can't tell where they are because of that 3D top-down forced camera thing when you get into those into the dungeon areas. And so I literally had 3 maps and markers, and every time I got a Korok seed, I'd go 1, 2, 3 and check. And I was trying to really make sure I did this. And my whole complaint was, I wish there was a way to track all these Korok seeds.
Now there is.
And then a week later, they announced the DLC with it, and even like mapping the perfect route on the roads. So it wasn't hard. It was just frustrating because when you're getting to that, the last 10, and you're looking at a map that has 900 dots 3 times, and you have your IGN wiki here and your Zelda Dungeon wiki here, and you're kind of like, none of this makes sense. I just see dots and colors. Again, not hard, just frustrating because it's all overwhelming. But
my
definitely not the hardest. It was really a pleasure to play.
Tabora wants to know, was there ever a game that almost made you quit completing games forever?
Several. Almost, people don't realize that we produce the show up into the last minute that the episode comes out. We release every Friday at noon, and we have episodes that are finalized at 9:30 in the morning, and the whole team and I haven't slept, and we're sitting there staring at this impossible wall. Cave Story was one because beating hell with 1 life is the worst. There's a game that I haven't completed yet because it's too impossible to, just because I'm not skilled enough. Mischief Makers for the N64. That game is great, but you have to become a legitimate speedrunner to get good at it. And so there's been a lot of episodes where I've cried, I've broken controllers, I've shown a lot of rage and passion because I'm at that moment where I could not actually complete this game. And I kind of, this is a dumb thing that I don't really say out loud, and I'm going to be really embarrassed, but I think you'd understand. I kind of treat the Completionist show as like my WWE title championship belt, right? So every episode, regardless of
the belt's up for
grabs.
Yeah.
And so You know, out of doing the 200 plus games so far, I haven't lost that belt. And so every week, if the game is too hard, I have that philosophical conversation with myself of, is this the week where I don't make a video, or I walk away from it, or I say I didn't do it? And those are always the scariest weeks, because it's like my whole business rides on this. My reputation rides on this. I might not do that this week. And it definitely just changes your perspective on how you look at games, because it gets really masochistic at times.
Oh,
yeah.
God, I can definitely imagine. Craigle1234 says, would you ever consider completing one of the Persona games? Persona 5 was the first game I ever completed, and you inspired me to do it.
Yo, I'm completing Persona 5 later on this year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, my first Persona 5, my first Persona game is Persona 5. And again, talking about games of the year, that's up there for me. And I'm definitely not the demographic who plays those games, but man, it has been a pleasure to play. That's a game that we didn't talk about that I have been playing, is Persona 5. It's definitely on my to-do list. Horizon Zero Dawn, Persona 5, and Cuphead are the three that I really want to make videos on before the year is up.
Awesome.
And I'm hoping to do before it gets too late.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So that means that in addition to remaking the 120 games, you're also doing new games as well?
Yeah, so every Friday is new games. I say new in terms of the show, the lore of the show. Whether
adding
it's
to the 120.
Yes, so whether it's a new game that just came out, or a game that's about to come out, or a game that I never played from my childhood, or whatever it may be. But on Tuesdays, I'm releasing the remakes of the episodes. I'm doing 2 a month, so it's 6 completionist style episodes.
There you go.
Game story, perfect. Yeah, so 6 episodes a month of Completionist and Completionist New Game Plus are being released every month. So a lot
You're
of
maniac.
yeah, I'm basically completing 6 games a month now.
All right. Peck Ricky wants to know, please discuss your different opinions on Star Fox Zero.
Oh my God!
Where do you come down on this?
I got to hear yours first.
My opinions on Star Fox Zero are very in line with the public idea, which is it is a very, very bad game.
Sure.
To get ahead of this, I imagine you enjoyed it. Star Fox, one of my favorite franchises ever, specifically, and it's kind of funny looking back on it now, but Star Fox 64 is really the only one that I absolutely adore and love.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Because, especially now going back and playing the Super Nintendo one and then now Star Fox 2, I'm like, those games are close to unplayable. In the modern sense.
Yeah.
And when you go forward, Star Fox Command on the DS, not my cup of tea. The gameplay was more like Star Fox 2, and I didn't really like that.
Yeah.
And then there was Star Fox Adventures, which isn't a Star Fox game. It's, you know, it's obviously a different genre, different spin-off. It's its own thing. And there are R-Wing flying levels in it, and I liked those, but they didn't match the quality of 64. Then there's Star Fox Assault on the GameCube, which I will defend because I love that game.
I do too.
It has many, many faults. The on-foot missions are not fun.
Yeah.
The Landmaster stuff doesn't ever feel quite right. The R-Ring missions are perfect.
Yeah.
And the story in that game is so fun, and it's what I loved about Star Fox 64. Here's a world of characters, a cast of characters, this whole universe where the planets feel different, and there's lore that you care about and that's building, and it's like, you know, there's Falco and his little girlfriend Kat, and it's like, oh, there's just interesting like dynamics between Fox's friend Bill and like all this stuff, right? I loved that. And then when we get to Star Fox Zero, it's like, all right, so we're just gonna totally forget about the story progression we made between Star Fox 64 and Star Fox Assault. We're going to essentially remake SNES Star Fox for the 3rd time.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Like when you look at it, my biggest problem with the game is that the motion controls. But my biggest thing that I am upset about is the fact that it's at the end of the day, it's the same story, the same levels that you go through from the Super Nintendo one and the N64 one, but worse.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I see that. I totally identify with that. I think that the narrative, I think that's a different tale of what a Star Fox game is, right? Star Fox 64 to me is the pinnacle of Star Fox. It sets the right stakes. It's a reboot of the first game. It does it where it's really grandiose. It has this like Star Wars kind of feel where it's got camaraderie and friendship and catastrophe if you're good at the game, success if you're good at the game. Catastrophe if you're bad at the game, success if you're good at the game, and branching paths and secrets. And I think to me, Star Fox Zero does a lot of what Star Fox 64 did very well. It does it on the same line. From a narrative standpoint, though, it's almost the exact same. And so I think to me, I've always kind of seen Star Fox Zero as a bit of a remake versus like, or a remaster rather, versus like a brand new Star Fox game. It sounds like to me you wanted a new Star Fox experience.
Well, the thing is, I definitely wanted a new one, and that's why I liked so much about Assault. And then, again, it's funny, like I liked a third of Assault. I really liked a third of Assault.
Yeah.
The other 2/3 didn't care for it all.
Yeah.
And I feel like with this game, it's like, yeah, if it was just a remaster, I'd be fine. But we already got that on the 3DS.
Sure.
Star Fox 64 3D is fantastic.
Yeah.
The graphics are way better than the original one. It runs way better, way less slowdown, and it's a great game.
Sure.
So getting the remaster on the Wii U, then all of a sudden, like, it's the motion controls that are not fun, and you
Sure.
cannot turn them off.
Yeah.
And so much of the gimmicky things they make you do with the little robot guy that would like go around and I forgot his name. But
I did too, but I know what you're talking about.
it wasn't fun. Like it was like, oh man, the camera's just getting in my way. Like the
Sure.
boss fights feel like a chore.
Yeah.
And I'm like, everything I like about Star Fox isn't here.
Sure.
But there'd be like pure flying levels, and I'm like, when I could wrap my head around the motion controls and it finally clicked. I'm like, all right, this is cool. It's Star Fox. But then immediately something would happen. I'm like,
Let me ask you this: did you ever play co-op?
no.
So this is how I learned to play Star Fox Zero, and this is what opened up my mind a lot to really liking it. Because at first, admittedly, I put in about 60 hours into Star Fox Zero.
Is it one of the
and-
games you completed?
Yes, I did a
crazy.
video on launch, and I was actually ridiculed to death on the internet because for being the only person on the internet that liked the game. One of the only few, at least from like the media press side, right?
Absolutely.
Some people refused to even finish reviewing it because they said they were upset with it, and that to me,
It's Polygon, right?
that really bummed me out because it's your job to do your job. You have to finish the game at the very least, and I think like to not put a score on it is to just kind of say like kind of F you to the game, and that's not to me a fair assessment. But if you're gonna give it a 3 out of 10, like at least tell me you beat the game. But I think when it comes to Star Fox Zero, I played it at first because I was excited about doing co-op. That was like my low-key thing of, oh man, a co-op Star Fox game. One person shoots, one person flies. That's like Star Wars to me, Like
Oh, yeah.
if Chewie's flying the ship and you've got Luke and Han in the blaster bay, that's really, really cool to me. And so at first I did 2 runs, one in co-op as just the ship and one in co-op as the shooting. And when I controlled the ship, it was classic Star Fox 64, 100%. When you do that co-op, you're playing just the ship. It's identical to Star Fox 64. And that to me was like, oh, this game is here. I actually like this. And so I started playing that more and more and more. And then when I started playing as the shooting aspect, I immediately felt this like weight change of, this is a little rough. This is the controls here is something I don't quite understand, and I don't know why I like it or why I don't like it. It just doesn't connect and flow well. And then when I started playing it, doing my completion runs, I started really struggling to get the hang of it. And then I turned off the secondary motion controls because there is like a motion control thing you can turn off.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop the full motion.
It was the
but-
toggle of the cameras being able to move with you're either moving the whole thing
Or you're moving the stick.
just the
pad.
where you're shooting, and then you move the
Yeah, and so I
analog.
turned that off, and I remember just grinding out the fight with Andros over and over again, and I hated it. I was getting angry and frustrated. And then somewhere in between that, I just like suddenly realized how to play the game. I just woke up and was like, oh, here's how you play. And so I started doing runs and runs and runs, and eventually you get to a point where you actually have to do every route possible to make sure that you got everything in the game. Like every branching route in one run. And I just ended up falling in love with the game. And
Davis loves it too, right? From
Yeah.
Warp Zone?
Yeah, Davis and I kind of shared that bond. And I think a lot of it came from instead of like being turned off from the motion controls, I kind of said, you know what? I'm going to let the motion controls take me for the ride that it wants me to go on and play the game they want me to play and not play the game that I'm trying to play. And
I
once,
get that.
And once I did that, my horizons opened up so much more. But at the same time, I can objectively go back and go, that's a problem. You're asking, if I'm a pro gamer and I'm someone who plays games a lot, and my job is to get good at games, I can find that enjoyment because it's my job to get good at a game. Playing a game like Cuphead's rewarding because you get good at Cuphead, it feels good to be good at a game, and then you can conquer it day in and day out. Same thing goes for Star Fox Zero. I sucked at the game, I got good at it, and I can appreciate
Well,
every...
platinum.
It's platinum, yeah,
Like,
platinum
so that
games.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but then you take a step back from Cuphead. You can go, oh, this game is very hard, but like it merits the reward of being good at the game. Star Fox is you master it, you're always good at it from then on out. I can pick up Star Fox Zero right now for everyone at home and beat it no problem, 100%. But that's a lot to ask a person when your barrier entry is please get good at the game.
Yeah.
You're asking too much of the person to want to get good at that experience in order to fully enjoy it.
Yeah.
And that's where the flaws lie in. I think Nintendo's biggest problem has always been customization. Let the players choose how to play the game that you created. And they should have known from the beginning with the success of the Wii versus the Wii U. They're making it, the Wii U is more of a hardcore gamers console. That's what they wanted to try and instill. And instead, they forced the motion motion controls. They fixed. They tried to do that, right? They wanted to make sure that, and I like the gamepad a lot. I think it's a really cool thing. I love that. That's why we have the Switch now. I think it's a cool element. But again, you're asking the player to learn how to play your game from a movement perspective instead of giving them the options that they want to play with.
Absolutely.
And that's been Nintendo's crux for the whole thing of the Wii U. Just let the players decide how they want to play their game.
And so an interesting thing there is you look at the Wii and, despite it not having the libraries that the PS3 or 360 did, and or even like when you look at the GameCube or the N64 and stuff, like there's a couple great games on the Wii. Obviously, Mario Galaxy.
I'd
1
say
and 2.
like about 10 tops.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But there's games that were made for the Wiimotes, and they were good with the remotes, and the motion control is fun. Even games like Mario Galaxy that were hardcore games that are not motion controlled, the motion was fun, the motion was fine, and it added to the experience and never got in the way of the experience. The Wii U's biggest issue is they're like, we need to make a sequel to the Wii. There needs to be something that fundamentally changes how you play games, because that's what the Wii was. So they're like, we're going to do the gamepad. There's going to be a tablet. They never delivered on why the tablet makes games better. Wii Sports is the perfect example of here's how this is going to change video games. And then we saw those functions get added into the different games as they go, whatever. The Wii U had Nintendo Land, which had a couple things that were like, oh, this is mildly amusing. The Luigi's Mansion thing was kind of fun to play, whatever. But like, there wasn't anything about that. It's like, oh my God. Like, can you remember playing Wii Sports and stopping and thinking, oh my God, imagine a Star Wars game.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I can't wait for the next real Zelda. I can't wait for this and whatever. And you started thinking about all this stuff. With the gamepad, there was never that moment where I was like, oh man, I can't wait for this experience. And it never came on the Wii U.
Yeah.
The Wii U had some amazing games, fantastic games.
I call the Wii U the Windows Vista of
It super is, man.
of Nintendo stuff, because to me, and this is the crazy thing, and you and I can fisticuff about this because it's interesting. Personally, the Wii U, despite the Wii U gamepad being the flaw of it, is one of my favorite consoles, and that's because the amount of first-party games that we got on the Wii U that blows everything out of the water that the Wii came with, and even some of the stuff on the Cube, even though there are a lot of them are remakes, right? But you look at the Wii U first-party lineup, and you look at it at Sony's and Microsoft's on the PS4 and the Xbox One, and you kind of start to realize that because third-party support disappeared from the Wii U, Nintendo had to go, okay, if they're not going to show up, we have to show up. We have to bring the games. And aside from Star Fox Zero and maybe like New Mario Bros. U / Luigi U, every game that they put on the Wii U was like really well thought out and really purposeful.
So you don't like New Super Mario Bros. U?
I like it. It's just it feels like a sequel to New Mario Bros. Wii, which is a sequel to New Mario Bros. DS.
And I mean, I've talked people's ears off about this to death when it comes to like just the problem with the 2D Mario games now is they need to get off the same art style. Like,
yes, they need to change it dramatically.
It needs to be something new.
They
and
need
fresh.
their Yoshi's Island attempt where it's like, let's make it weird, let's make it fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think that the level design in New Super Mario Bros. U is fantastic.
Oh, I agree. I agree with you too.
So like I signed up for that game. I agree with what you're saying though, and again, I've said this so many times, but the Wii U's library is fantastic because we got so many new IPs isn't the right word, but it kind of is. It's new IPs within the Nintendo IP lore.
Yeah.
Captain Toad.
Splatoon.
So fucking Splatoon, which is just a brand new IP.
Yoshi's Woolly World.
And Yoshi's Woolly World. We got Super Mario 3D World, which I fucking love.
That to me as like I don't want to say it's my favorite 3D Mario because to me it's not a 3D Mario.
It's a different thing. It's the third pillar of Mario.
Yeah, I would say it's that to me maybe one of my favorite games on the Wii U. Mario 3D World is so good. The music, the atmosphere, the nostalgia. It's just there's so much going for it.
But what's interesting about the Wii U, going back to what I was saying about them, they never really proved why we needed the gamepad. The thing that upset me so much about Star Fox is that Miyamoto and Nintendo decided to use Star Fox at the end of the Wii U's life cycle as the thing to prove why we needed a gamepad.
Right.
And I'm like, out of all the franchises you could have done, why Star Fox? Why the one that I've been waiting for so long that's been dormant and had no chance of really coming back? And then when it comes back, it was clear from the first time we saw it. It's like, oh, this is too little too late. You're messing this up. And I think that when that happened, and Mario Power Tennis is the other...
Ooh, that's also one that is
really bad
kind of
game.
boring. Right.
It was not good.
It was like, remember everything you loved about Mario Tennis? It's not in this game.
It's not in this one, man.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting where I can't stand by the Wii U's library as being this great thing because it had so many blemishes, especially towards the end of its life cycle. And it's interesting to look at it and be like, no matter how many great games it has, Tropical Freeze being one of my favorite 2D platformers of all time. And all these other games that are Bayonetta 2, all this shit.
Bayonetta 1 and 2,
so
yeah.
great. You stop and look at it and you're like, we never got
The
a
reason to
proper
have
3D, well, the gamepad thing, but we never even got a proper 3D Mario. We never got a Metroid game. We never got, well, we got Zelda, but at the very end, but it might as well just be a Switch game, right?
Right.
You hit it out?
There's 6 minutes left on this disc.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why. We don't know why. It's like it's a fresh disc.
That's fine. We can wrap up in 6 minutes.
Okay, cool.
Sure.
You got 6 minutes on the clock.
Dude, it's
Great
great.
to meet you, man.
Yeah, you too, man. Take it easy.
Come back sooner.
I would love to.
All right. So there's that. Let's move on here.
That was a great question.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It definitely was.
See, you can have good conversations, internet. That was perfect. Games are cool.
Games are cool.
Games are cool.
Nathan Palmer just says, question, how does Jirard stay so awesome? He's one of the coolest, most down-to-earth people ever. Make sure he has a chill day.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm having a pretty chill day. It's been fun so far.
Good. We had a couple other compliments to you here. We got Crimson Face. Is he getting enough sleep? I'm legit worried. That man works too much. Been appreciating the hustle for years, but God, let him rest.
Thank you. I'm getting sleep, I promise.
And Lancer Giant says, how do you even manage to function with this mad schedule of yours?
I have a really good team. I don't talk about it much, but I have 14 employees working for me worldwide, 9 in-house, 5 that work in remote locations. They are the backbone. Like right now, this week's game is Shadow of Mordor. And while I have my PS4 with me back at my hotel because I'm not done with the game yet, I have a team who's editing all of the voiceovers and the scripts and the sound effects, and they're keeping this going so that I can do things like hang out with you guys and go to Nintendo press events and so on and so forth. And so really, and I think you can obviously understand this too. Your team is your biggest asset in anything that you do.
100%.
And without them, none of this would be possible. So my team is the reason why I'm still alive.
And then let's see. Says, since you're reviewing the first 120 games, will you be redoing Final Fantasy VII month?
Yeah, so for those of you who don't have the context, I did in college I did an 18-page research paper on how I thought Final Fantasy VII was one of the biggest storytelling changing aspects of video games. I think that it set the precedence of how stories can be told from a cinematic point of view in gaming. And I wrote this really large paper, and when I graduated from college, I kind of said, I'd love to turn this into a video essay, kind of like Danny O'Dwyer does.
Yeah.
And I was very inspired by him and the stuff he's done in the past. And so I did... I basically took that paper and turned it into like an 8-part series where I explained every aspect and every single story element and beat and thematic element of Final Fantasy VII. And it's at a time where there was no remake in sight. There was no one talking about it. It just was like...
There still is no remake in sight if you really think about it.
We'll never know. We'll never know. But I did this project, and it was this really big passion project of mine. And that was probably one of the saddest things about taking those down, because those to me weren't just completionist episodes. They definitely weren't. There was no comedy. It was just being genuine and having a good conversation. I brought in YouTubers and industry pros from all around the world to talk about why they loved Final Fantasy, what their favorites were, what they hated, what they really hated about Final Fantasy VII, and I made this cool, cohesive narrative. And unfortunately, I had to take all 8 of those videos down and expanded, not just the main game, but Crisis Core, having children. Wow. It really was a big...
You went in?
Yeah, I went in, yeah.
I love Crisis Core.
I do too. It's one of my favorite games. It's so freaking good.
The story is so awesome.
Zach is the best Final Fantasy... Zach's the best Cloud we'll ever get.
Absolutely.
Like, no, 100%, hands down.
Man. The end of that game, it gets me,
dude. Bawling. I was 19 when the game came out. I was bawling my eyes out in my apartment as I have my PSP dangle to my TV with my component cables. I'm looking at it on my widescreen, freaking out because you know what's going to happen.
Yeah, man. You know, it's like Titanic. You know the end.
But you just didn't expect it to hit you.
Man.
Yeah.
Oh, God, it's such a special game.
So to answer your question, if yes, I will be redoing it, and I'm going to be doing it actually more like a film. So instead of it being 8 episodes, it's going to be like a 2.5 hour like narrative that's going to be more crafted to be like that. So it's not going to be completionist episode where I show the ending or like show my stats and stuff, but I think by doing the film, it'll be a lot more rewarding, and I think a lot more people will know at that point, yes, I did do this.
Yeah, so man, that's so cool. You work so hard. I'm so proud of you. What you do is so awesome.
Thank you.
Please go check him out, youtube.com/thatonevideogamer. And if you want to support him on Patreon, patreon.com/thatonevideogamer. Thank you guys very much. Thank you so much for coming up here.
Thank you for having me.
We got to have you more, man.
Absolutely.
This is good. This is really, really damn good.
You guys always have my axe for anything you need. I'm down.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. Well, until next week, I love you. Hopefully you enjoyed that episode of Gamescast. If you did, click here to subscribe. You can click there to subscribe to Kind of Funny and watch Cooking with Greggy and other stuff like that. If you want to give us some money to support Joey Noelle, click right here. She'd appreciate it.